Hey guys, welcome back to Introduction to Literary Devices. Now it's part 2. So you already saw part 1 where we started on literary elements. That was your plot, your protagonist, your antagonist. You've already gone through looking at a movie, analyzing that, and seeing where you could find those literary elements in that movie. Okay, so let's review what literary devices are, what the difference between literary elements and literary techniques are, and then get into what our literary techniques are for today. Look what it says. Remember this from the last time. Commonly, the term literary devices refers to the typical tools used by writers in their works to convey his or her message in a simple way to his or her readers. Remember, like I told you before, literary devices are tools. They are the strategies that they use to organize. Who uses? Authors, playwrights, people that are writing movies. It doesn't any kind of literature or anything that someone's going to see or watch, right? It's the way that they use to organize things and to use strategies to hint at something, to give somebody a piece about something, so that the story has a lot of dimensions, a lot of different levels, a lot of different understandings, and a lot of different significados, right? A lot of different meanings. So it's the tools that they use to make it interesting and to make their message understandable. Look what it says. When used correctly, the different literary devices help the readers to do what? Appreciate, interpret, analyze a literary work. Don't write this stuff down again, you guys, but make sure that you are taking notes in the part that is new. They not only beautify the piece of literature, but also give it deeper meaning to it, testing the very understanding of the reader along with providing them enjoyment. Okay, so it challenges you, it gives you a deeper meaning, and you can enjoy it, and it motivates the reader to imagine. Remember, like I told you before, sometimes I don't want to watch a movie from a book because I think my imagination does better when the author describes it instead of the director of the movie teaching it to me. Okay, so remember, there's two aspects to literary devices. You have your literary elements. Elements are your basics, okay? This is what, look what it says, develop the work. And then your literary techniques are what give you a greater understanding and appreciation to it. It's what makes it deeper. So the last time we were talking about the literary elements, okay? That's your plot, setting, protagonist, antagonist, etc. Now we're going to be talking about the techniques. That's what makes it even better, what makes it deeper, what makes it more understandable, but also have different levels and significance. Okay, let's see what we learned today from that then. But first we're going to review the other ones. Okay, so like we said, literary elements develop. So what were those? The plot is the logical sequence, what happens at the beginning, middle, end, right? Setting, where does it happen? When does it happen? Protagonist, the main character, the good guy most of the time. The antagonist is the one in conflict with the protagonist, the bad guy most of the time, whether or not it's obvious or not obvious. Climax is the peak. Remember the peak, or the one that is at the very top, the most exciting part, and then it starts to resolve and have a resolution at the bottom. The resolution is how it ends, okay? It happens after the climax because then you see the ending after the exciting part. The conflict is the problem that the whole story is about. The mood is the emotion, sad, serious, happy, all of the above, right? And the theme is the lesson or idea, that the message that the author or the director is trying to get across. Okay, let's go into literary techniques then. Literary techniques, like I said before, give a greater understanding and appreciation for the work. If authors did not use literary techniques, it would be boring. It would be like somebody just saying, reading a book that has absolutely no dimension, no meaning, except exactly what it's saying right there, like describing a brick wall or something like that. It'd be very, very boring. So let's see what authors use to make their work very, very interesting so that you can analyze works from very, very good authors and become a very, very good author. Okay, and this is where you start to take notes. Okay, I went through that first part pretty quickly, right? It's talking, but now we're gonna bring it down a little bit. Okay, not too much you're gonna fall asleep, don't worry. Okay, look at the first literary technique that we're gonna talk about. Imagery. Well, you can learn a lot from the name of it, okay? It's creating an image in your mind. Well, how do they do that? Look what it says. Imagery is the use of figurative language to create visual representation of actions, objects, and ideas in our mind in such a way that they appeal to our physical senses. Okay, so imagery is where the author uses vocabulary to paint the picture in your mind. Let me show you some examples. Okay, look at the first one on this side. The room was dark and gloomy. Okay, the words dark and gloomy give you a visual image in your head. Okay, gloomy means sad. So if a room is dark and gloomy, this one's bright and it has bright colors behind me and everything like that, so it would be like the opposite of this, right? You don't need to see the room. You can picture the room being dark and gloomy. That's imagery. Look what the next one says in the little pink box above, right there. The river was roaring in the mountains. Roaring isn't painting a picture with your eyes. It's almost like you can hear it. Roaring is like rah, right, with the lion. So now you can already picture that this river is roaring, which means it's a strong one. It has rapids. It's like hitting the rocks. Okay, it's loud. Have you ever been by a river? It's like shh. Okay, you hear all the water. It's really, really, really loud when it's going in a quick pace current. Okay, so that appeals to your sense of hearing and already still paints a picture in your mind. That is imagery. Let's see the next one. Okay, the next one has two. These are similes and metaphors. These are two comparison ones. Okay, look what it says. Both compare two distinct objects and draw similarities between the two. The only difference is that similes use the word as or like, and metaphors do not. Okay, so big caps or big point on this one. If you want to put this in your, no, you need to put this in your notes. Similes are comparisons, okay, of two objects, and metaphors are comparisons of two objects. They're both comparisons of two objects. It's just that similes use as or like in their comparison. Let's see what we're talking about. Okay, the first one is our simile. My love is like a red rose. Okay, that could be taken in all different ways, and that's why an author likes to do that. An author likes to make a comparison where it might mean one thing to you and one thing to me. Okay, and it's going to develop that picture still in your mind about what love that they're talking about in the context of the story. It's a simile because what are you comparing? The love with a red rose, using a word like. Look at the next one in the pink box. He is an old fox, very cunning. Okay, so now the author is comparing a person with a fox that's very cunning. Cunning is like tricky, like it's trying to get you into a trap, okay? Already paints a really big picture because even Pichingos use foxes as somebody that's sneaky and going to deceive, right? And now this author is describing a person like that, and you can already see what kind of personality that person has from this metaphor. Okay, now we're going to go into hyperboles. Hyperboles are another one of those, just like imagery, where it's very easy to figure out the meaning of it based on the word. Because remember, guys, hyper means hyper, active, energetic, above something, right? Okay, say that with me, hyperbole. It's not hyperbole, okay? Hyperbole. It is an intentional exaggeration of actions and ideas to emphasize, okay? It's when you exaggerate and you do it on purpose. Okay, you can even say that to somebody who's exagerando. Don't use hyperboles with me, okay? They may not know what you're talking about, but it would work in that context. Let me show you in literature. If you say, my bag weighs a ton. Okay, well, a ton is 2,000 pounds. So, no, it doesn't, okay? It's a hyperbole. It's an exaggeration. Another one is, I have got a million issues to look after. Okay, how many times have you maybe heard, like, somebody in your house say that, like, I have a million things to do right now, don't talk to me about that. That's a hyperbole. But what can you, in literature, how does that paint a picture in your mind? It does, because you can already see that that person is really stressed out, really excited, really something really, they have an exaggerated emotion at that point because hyperboles are being used. Okay, let's look at personification. Personification, another word that you can learn the meaning from the word. Person, okay? Person. Look what it says. It gives a thing, an idea, or an animal human qualities. Okay, that means it gives a thing, an idea, or an animal. It makes it into a person. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Look at the first one. The flowers are dancing beside the lake. Are the flowers really dancing? No, it probably means that they're, shaking in the wind because maybe the wind is strong that day. And it paints another picture in your mind. Wow, the flowers must be beautiful. They're swaying back and forth, right? And everything is just a beautiful scene around the lake, okay? It paints a picture because now you're picturing the flowers dancing like real people, right? Have you seen my car? She is a real beauty. Okay, so what does this do? This paints a picture that the car is very important to this person because they're using a she. They're calling it a person. It's like a friend to that person, okay? Which also paints a picture in your mind, the close relationship that person has with his car. Personification makes an animal, a thing, or an idea into a person. Okay, let's look at alliteration. Alliteration refers to the same consonant sounds in words coming together. This is not where you're going to paint a picture. Alliteration is where it's going to roll off the tongue so easily it's easy to remember, or it catches your eye to make it interesting, or it's just a piece of fun inside literature. This is used a lot of times in poems. Okay, I'm going to show you what I mean by alliteration. It has the same consonant sounds in words coming together. Like the beginning is all the same. You might want to put that in your notes. Like the beginning is all the same. Look what I'm talking about. Better butter always makes the batter better. Okay, it's a little saying that that's fun to learn. Okay. Better butter always makes the batter better. By the way, batter is like the masa of dough or something like that. Okay, like bread or cookies. The other one is she sells seashells at the seashore. Okay, that's alliteration. It has all the same beginning consonant sounds to roll off the tongue easily and fun. What do you guys call this? Trabalenguas, right? Alliteration. Now we're going to go into allegory. Allegory is a literary technique that uses an abstract idea and is given a form of characters, actions, or events. Okay, we did Plato in philosophy last year, and we learned about his allegory of the cave. In the allegory of the cave, he was presenting the abstract idea that if you are not educated, it is like you live in a cave that you can never get out of, okay? And he used it by what? Representing the lack of education, trapping you in a cave by showing the cave, by showing people trapped in the cave and what happens to those people. So he was presenting an abstract idea, the lack of education and what it does to you, by using a form of characters, actions, or events, people trapped in a cave. Okay? So an allegory is abstract idea, something that you may not be able to touch and you don't really want to explain with words because sometimes just explaining it doesn't have a huge impact. So what did he decide to do? Plato decided to represent the abstract idea with characters and actions and events so that people could draw the symbolism. Oh, look at that. Not having education is like being trapped in a cave. Okay, that's allegory. Let me show you another famous example. This is not a book that we read here. We could, and it would be really interesting because it's all about communism. It's called The Animal Farm. It's written by a very famous author. His name is George Orwell, and I'm going to read what it says right here. It's an example of an allegory using actions of animals on a farm to represent the overthrow of the last of the Russian Tsar Nicholas II and the communist revolution of Russia before World War II. In addition, the actions of the animal on the farm are used to expose the greed and corruption of the revolution. I read this story. What it is like, okay, you get into the life of all these animals on the farm, and I think it's the mice, the rats, start to spread communism in the farm, okay? But what happens is that it fails. People are getting mad. Animals are getting mad. Animals are getting killed. And the communism, and they keep pushing communism, and it keeps failing and failing and failing until basically the whole farm is just destroyed because of communism. And it's very easy to see, but very interesting how they're teaching how communism is really, really bad and what it does to a society and to a government through these animals living on a farm. And so you're like, what in the world? This is crazy that we're learning this from animals. But he does such an advanced symbolism of an abstract idea like communism and his disagreement with it that you learn a lot from the book. So that is an allegory. Okay, that one's a pretty advanced one. Another kind of, not advanced one, but kind of abstract is irony. That's what we're going to talk about right now. Irony is the use of words in such a way in which the intended meaning is completely opposite to the literal meaning. It's easier to show you that one with examples. Look, the bread is soft as stone. It's sarcasm, you guys, okay? It's total sarcasm for some part of irony. And the other part of irony is something that you just completely don't expect, okay? It's like the surprise factor. Think about it. The bread is soft as stone. Oh, wow, this bread is as soft as stone. Well, stone is hard. It's a rock, right? Okay? So they're not going to just say this bread is hard. No, wow, this bread is soft as stone. Okay? And you just read that and then you start to laugh at yourself. You're like, oh, no, they don't like the bread. It's just super, super hard. Or how about the fire station burned down? Why is that irony? Because would you really expect that the fire station, of all places, the bomberos, is the one to get a fire and burn down? No, you would never expect that. You would never expect that the fire station that's supposed to put out the fires is the place that burns down. That is irony, okay? Or like, what about like the guy that created Apple iPhones uses a Samsung? That would be irony, something like that. Okay, let's look at flashback. Flashback I don't have an example for because it's like super easy. Part of a story that happened before the current action, which is brought out through characters, dreams, or storytelling. You guys have watched movies and maybe you've read books where they use flashback. You need to know something about the character, but they're not going to show his whole life before the story takes place. No, they're going to flash back. They're going to keep flashing back sometimes, which is really interesting in a movie or a story. They keep flashing back to tell you a little bit more about the person's past so you can understand what's going on in the present and what will happen in the future. Okay, flashback, it goes back. The opposite of that is foreshadowing. This is where the author alludes, hints, gives pieces to upcoming events without directly stating that they will happen. I hope you guys have all read a book like that where you're like, I feel like the author's telling me that this is going to happen, and then boom, a twist. And it's like what you never expected. That's foreshadowing. Shadow is like a sombra, right? It's giving you a little sombra of what's to come and see if you can get it or not to give some mystery to the story, okay? And another one is onomatopoeia. Okay, say that one. Onomatopoeia. It's just words that represent sounds. What do I mean by that? Boom, or words that really describe sounds. I'm going to show it to you. Paint that picture in your mind again. The corn went pop in the microwave. Popcorn. The corn went pop in the microwave, and you can already picture it in your mind. Pop, 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 pop. Look at the other one. The flood water gushed through the town. Gushed is like it goes forcefully. okay? You can hear it and you can see it because it's an onomatopoeia. It describes the sound. It gushed. It went into the town. The leaves crunched under my feet. Okay, you ever step on a leaf and it goes crunch, 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 crunch. That's the sound that it makes, crunch. So that's how they describe it, and you can already picture it in your mind. It would be really boring if you just said, I stepped on a leaf, and it made a sound. Okay, authors don't write like that or they wouldn't sell their books. Okay, I stepped on a leaf, it made a sound. No, the leaves crunched under my feet. I put the popcorn in the microwave. No, the corn went pop in the microwave. There was a flood in the town. No, the floodwater gushed through the town. See how there's a lot more imagery and a lot more interest in that? The owl hooted in the tree. Hoo, 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 hoo. It hooted, okay? Or you could just say the owl made a noise in the tree. Well, that doesn't describe the noise in the tree. That's not fun. That's boring, okay? So it hooted in the tree. Hoo, hoo, hoo. There you go. So that's what an onomatopoeia is. The last one is idioms. You guys know what idioms are because we've done them before. This is the phrases where the meanings cannot ever be inferred by the literal meanings of the word. These are phrases that every language has, okay? You guys have your phrases that I don't understand. I have my phrases that you don't understand, but we need to learn them because that's how people talk. It's just phrases that mean one thing that it's just everyone knows that's what it means, even though it has nothing to do with what it actually says. And if you're looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm going to tell you right now. It's a piece of cake. If I say it's a piece of cake, okay, a piece of cake has nothing to do with the meaning of that word, of that phrase. But if I say, that's a piece of cake, it's easy. That's what that means. It's easy. Another one is, it's raining cats and dogs. That means it's raining really hard. That's all that it means. Kill two birds with one stone. I think you guys had that one in Spanish too. Kill two birds with one stone. That means get two things done at one time, okay? We don't know why we're killing a bird with stones, nonetheless why we're killing two birds with stones, but that's what the phrase is talking about, okay? So let's see the activity for today. The activity is on this video, and I'm basically just going to go through and read the examples so that you can see each slide, stop, and put your answer down. It says the next slides will show you examples of a literary technique, and you decide which one it represents. You can repeat the answers, but every choice will be used at least once, okay? So, the buzzing bee flew away. What kind of literary technique is that? I'm not gonna say like stop the video, then do the next one. No, I'm just gonna read it. It's up to you to stop the video and pick which one it is. So the buzzing bee flew away. What is buzzing? He is a shining star. This is the worst day of my life. The fair breeze blew. The white foam flew. Pilgrim's Progress is an example of this, one of these things, where all the characters are representations of Christianity and its characteristics. Moo. Lightning danced across the sky. My dad will kill me when he comes home. Our soldiers are as brave as lions. American Airlines, Best Buy, Coca-Cola. The sack fell into the river with a splash. Life is a highway. A pilot has a fear of heights. In the Bible, when Joseph sees his brother and remembers the dreams he had in the past. It's raining cats and dogs. A gun can be a sign of upcoming events in a story. My alarm clock yells at me to get out of bed every morning. The sunset was the most gorgeous they'd ever seen. The clouds were edged with pink and gold. Okay, that's it. Make sure you study those words so that you know all the literary devices, all the literary techniques that authors use to make stories super, super interesting so that you can start to use them too. Thanks, guys. Bye.